Hi, Melanie. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, it's good to
Um,
see.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for being part of our creative industry season and joining us for this live discussion. Spending time out there with you in Silver City and kind of just being around in the community has really been an amazing time, but also an opportunity for us to connect with folks. And I think that we've realized just how much collaboration and just networking and coming together to talk about some of this stuff just makes the road a lot easier. So thanks for joining us for the discussion. And, we'd love to hear a little bit about your creative journey and maybe what inspired you to start Whiskey Creek Zócalo out there in Silver City.
Yeah, well, it was so good to meet you guys and actually have your physical presence down here. And I hope you could come back again. Um, so I guess a little background on us is we've lived in this community of Silver City for um, over 30 years. Um, and we've always been in the service industry, so we've worked in bars and restaurants pretty much all of our lives. We're also musicians and builders and artists. So we wanted to do something in our neighborhood that we felt like there was a little bit of room for or a little bit of a void of, and combine all of our experience of the service industry with our love of music, and create a space that musicians could come and perform where they were not background music, where the show was focused on them, and merge that with our love of some creative building and planting. We also have a plant nursery, and yeah, kind of being a jack of all trades. But so far, it seems to be working. And then our love of Jeff, who is my husband and my partner, he loves making pizza. So we built a wood fired oven out of clay, and we have a small menu, but we try to do what we do well instead of spreading ourselves too thin that way, because we're spread very thin in other ways. My son is also a big part of this, and he's also a musician and a writer, and moved back during COVID, so he is kind of the backbone of booking all the music into the venue right now. So it's definitely a family affair. um, and we love the
Awesome.
service industry. So we thought, why not do it ourselves?
Yeah. I mean, even when we went out there to visit you all, just seeing the number of different things that you have going on, where you have all these worlds colliding with the creative building and the creative arts and the culinary, and just all that space. It's super awesome to see, and it's great to kind of get to watch it grow. And I've seen that you all definitely have a lot of acts lined up for the whole season. So, I'm definitely trying to get trying to get a trip down there. I'm trying to drag some of my creative friends along for the ride. I'm like, we need to take a trip to Silver City. So it's been
Yeah,
really cool to watch.
thank you.
Um, yeah, I mean, do you think that there's anything that has kind of influenced the way that you've worked with the Silver City community, in your approach and collaboration in just New Mexico, or something that kind of makes that unique, kind of working alongside the community and just bringing all these different areas together? Is there anything there that kind of resonates with you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I think it's the smartest business model. It's not based on good sense or common practices that people will tell you to do. But I think because we had so much experience ourselves, we were willing to take a risk on combining all these passions. And definitely New Mexico influences that, because you see more of that here. You see more people who do wear many hats. They're artists, and they're carpenters, or there's any combination of people doing things. It's a very Renaissance like community, and that's inspiring. And yeah, I've collaborated with the mural project here in town. I haven't done it for a long time, but I did do some collaborations with them early on, and also with Virus Theater, who is an amazing group of people. And I think working in that sense of just an atmosphere of collaboration already teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you you don't always have to be right, or you can start in one place and wind up in another. Art and theater teach you that. And so I think it helps to be flexible. And that's one thing that it taught me. And it helps to know that there are people in your community that are resources that want to help you. Um, and that supporting each other is a win-win instead of looking at everybody as competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm gonna mention what you said about it not being like a great business model, but I don't think that's true at all. I think you're taking some of the coolest things and combining them and doing something based in passion and creativity. And, it takes an innovative business model to do that kind of work. And you've made it happen. And I've seen the building and I've seen the amazing mud wall that you all did outside with groups of creatives who came out to do that, and just all these really intricate details. And I mean, you all have made it happen. So I'm kind of wondering if you have any advice that you would share with creatives who are looking to collaborate and maybe build something, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, I think, between sharing your ideas too soon and not sharing them at all.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think if you share things too soon, and you get a lot of naysayers, or you get people, there's a dispersion of energy, not very scientific, but that's what it feels like. And you can lose heart. But I think if you gather some trusted people around you, and you have sort of a focus group of people who you trust that you can bounce things off of. I think that's super helpful, because just like in all collaborations, if you have a group of people that are willing to give and take, you somebody else has an idea or a direction that you might never have thought of, or a way to take your idea that you can't figure out how to move forward, and they have a way through. So I think that's a super valuable tool, to be able to rely on other people to help you sometimes. And I feel like it's also a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Asking for help and leaning on other people we're not really used to doing in in our American society. So being
Yeah.
willing to find those trusted people and then also lean on them and know that they have new perspectives that can kind of help, right? Because you bring other eyes and voices into the conversation, you get to see sides that you haven't seen before. So that's really great. Um, and I think you talked about this a little bit, like it takes a community, right? It takes a whole village to really move things forward. And you've done some collaboration and talking about how that work just goes further. But do you think that there's anything that creative businesses in New Mexico can do to work together, not just to grow individually, but grow together, right? I think you mentioned sometimes we look at it as competition, but I think that there's always room on the playing field for everyone. So do you have anything in that frame of mind?
Yeah. And I do think that's hard because, New Mexico, we feel, especially in the southwest corner of the state or the southern part of the state, I feel like we feel more poor than the northern part of the state. We live maybe a little bit closer to the ground, is how I sort of see it. Um, and so sometimes people do feel like sharing resources is hard, but I do feel like it's proven to do what you say and actually expand everybody's, um, not just conversation but reach. And so like in our town, for instance, yeah, the other restaurant bar owners are incredibly supportive. We're going to have our grand opening here, and not grand opening, our anniversary of our 2-year anniversary. And we're going to have a big party. And the Little Toad Creek, which is a downtown bar, they are going to do a tasting here of their new products, of their new canned cocktails that they're making. And so um, we've collaborated with the other restaurant bars in town, on certain things. They especially believe in the things that you're talking about and have been super collaborative. But I think, in the vein of what you're saying, if Southwest New Mexico and Northern New Mexico could actually collaborate more, I think that would be a great thing, because there are a lot of, sort of to your point, of reach of, we could do something down here that could reach up there and vice versa. And I do think it helps to sort of have a map of us, like what we could all do together. Um, and for instance, I think I just got an email from AMP concert series, and interested in, can we share artists? Can we help artists who are traveling through pick up a gig here or pick up a gig there to help pay for their journey through New Mexico and make more stops in New Mexico instead of less. And so I do think all those things, communicating and being willing to share our resources, is really valuable on so many levels.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And to have that collaboration too. And when you said that, working with, uh, across the state, I was thinking like, oh, can you work with the other venues who might be able to like, all right, like they hit Silver City, now how do we get them to Las Cruces and then over through and send them up to, Clovis and Roswell and see how they get involved. But knowing that AMP Concerts is in the mix and reaching out and seeing how they can collaborate with you all to send artists is super, super exciting. And that'll be huge for creatives. So that's very cool. Um, I guess while since we're on a Zoom call right now, right? I mean, do you have any thoughts about how technology and, social media and different streaming platforms like this, how they might be able to play a role in collaboration, especially when we're thinking about like our rural communities in New Mexico? And sometimes it's harder for us to like, we get to connect now because we have this platform, but sometimes making it out in person is harder. And there might be opportunity there as well to kind of build collaboration. Wondering if you've thought at all about that in terms of your business.
Yeah, I think that's my weak spot, honestly. I'm not that good at it, and I have a little resistance to it because I really like I really like to be in the room with people. Um, but my son is much better at it than me, and so he does a lot of our Instagram and social media stuff. I do think you're right. There's opportunities to probably reach people more with social media, who get on their computers, who are traveling or who are somewhere else and don't know what's going on in an area. And they find us or anybody that way. Um, but I feel like that's probably an area that I could use help on understanding how we can reach more people that way. I also feel like my resistance with that comes a little bit because it all seems so superficial and often um, like we're just being marketed to in a way that uh, it's hard to know where the depth lies. And so much of that becomes like, who has the flashiest, Instagram poster, who has the best, I don't know. Um, but I know it drives a lot of traffic, and it encourages people to find each other. And so I've seen the benefit of that. We've had artists and different people stop by who have found us on Instagram. And um, my son does something called the WCZ News, which is hysterical and awesome, and uh, like just in a funny way lets people know what's going on and reaches lots of people. So I think um, it's an area that I need more input on, that I don't really know how that's panning out in the future and how we can utilize that better as a concrete tool rather than just like another way to market. Because I also feel like one problem with that for me is that our information is so dispersed that we don't know where to go to get it anymore. And so if we have a show and people say, "Oh, I didn't know about that," I say, "Where do you get your information?" And none of them can say. None of them say, "Oh, it's the newspaper or the posters or the flyers or Facebook or Instagram." It's, they don't know. Something comes across or it doesn't come across their feed or something. And so I feel like it's a struggle right now to know where there is community access for real information out there.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful to know too, because I think that, there's ways to cultivate kind of like a digital community that can help with some of that, right? Because I do think that a lot of us get lost in the depths of making posts and just marketing the business. And there's an art to it, but it's different for everything and it depends on your community as well. So I think that there's ways to kind of like leverage it to build, outside community across New Mexico and then even across like state lines to kind of pull in folks from that side. But that's good to know because we could probably develop some programming or find a contractor that could support in doing some of that kind of work, figuring out how we use it to grow our businesses and communities and not just make it like another chore, but actually use it and use it intentionally. So that's really great.
Yeah.
Um, so when you think of New Mexico and New Mexico's creative economy, and what creatives need like right now, what do you think is like maybe one piece of advice or something that we've talked about today that you think would be important for them to kind of take away just as they're considering what it means to build out their creative projects or their business?
Yeah, I guess I would go back to using your resources, the resources that you have. And I heard this thing once by a writer who was talking about his process um, shooting some TV show many, many years ago. And what he said really struck me, which is that you use the resources you have. So if you need a boat, but you don't know anybody that has one, you still can ask the people who might know. And then they actually might have somebody, and that person might lead you somewhere else. And before you know it, the right person is showing up with that information because you asked. And so I think using the resources that we have around us and in New Mexico and staying connected and staying in conversation, I think is so important to communicate, what we have to offer and what we need is so important. And to use the resources that we have, even if they don't seem like they're the exact right ones, because you never know when that ripple effect will happen. And it's magic when it does. And that's what I think makes New Mexico so special too, is that we have so many creative, caring people that want to see these things happen, and not just for themselves, but for everyone. And it's really empowering and it's really humbling to see how many people actually want to help you when you put what you have forth for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's beautiful. And it's definitely true. So thank you for sharing that. Um, you mentioned the second anniversary celebration kind of coming up and the collaboration with Little Toad Creek, right? Um,
Mm.
and kind of some of the stuff you're working on, but is there any other projects or opportunities and events that are kind of going on for Whiskey Creek Zócalo that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, our 2-year anniversary is a big deal. We're proud that we made it this far. And we're going to have a local band, Siempre Baird, play.
Mm,
We're going to make churros. We're going to try to make churros. And
fun.
we have just a lot of fun activities during the day happening, and then the band at night. And so it's a completely free event. The plant nursery will be not quite open, but we'll have plants available and be doing a raffle. So we just want the community to show up and share in our celebrating that space. And then yeah, we have two what we consider very big events at the end of April. We have the Whalers coming, which is um,
Awesome.
yeah, we're pretty excited about that. Um, and then we have Los Mirlos, which is a band traveling all the way from Peru coming. So
Oh,
we're excited about those shows. We have a lot of cool things coming up. Those are our really big shows that we have coming up at the end of April that are exciting. So
awesome. So those are at the end of April, and then when is the second anniversary celebration happening?
that is, I believe, April 12th, if that's a Saturday. I feel like, yeah, so pretty soon.
Awesome. It's going to be a busy month. Well,
Yeah, busy month. Yeah.
congratulations on that. That's super awesome, Melanie.
Thank
Um,
you.
those are all the questions I have for you today, but thank you so much for joining us for Creative Industry Season and kind of just having a chat with us. Like, it's important for us to talk directly to the community and, you know, share the momentum in what we're building together and be part of it. And we like to elevate what's going on across the state. So thanks for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. And we're very appreciative of what you guys are doing up there. So thanks for all the hard work. And I look forward to seeing you down here sometime.
Absolutely. Awesome. We'll take care.
Okay, you too. Bye.